Steel, are they gonna drop steel line, stuff like that?
We must have had a $500,000.
All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise. Nick, would you care to have our prayer?
My Father, we lift you up tonight and thank you for your blessings upon our lives and such a beautiful day that you gave us today. Guide and direct tonight, Father, as we deal with the issues at hand, that everything we say and everything we do would bring glory and honor to your name. Guide and direct now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you haven't already done so, please sign in. Okay. Council, you have, look at your minutes.
You had them at one time.
They're in there somewhere. Oh.
The only item I saw was kind of it looked like a duplication. It was the end of, or bottom of page 4 and the top of page 5. I think it just said the same thing, and I don't know if you want to simplify that or maybe eliminate one of the references there. It involved the storage unit fund, and it appears to have the vote listed twice and the kind of the general information all there, so.
Take out the one at the bottom, and the one at the top on this next page has the right fund number to it.
I make a motion with the correction that was given to adopt the minutes.
Motion made by Nick, seconded by Daniel. Any questions? All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay. Do you want us to just sign under our name here? Okay. Just sign under your name. You can use my pen if you want. Okay. All right, on to financial reports.
You have your lab copies in front of you. You can tell we're still doing pretty good, but it's only the third month of the year. There are still some funds that are in the red, primarily the grant funds on the last page. Those will coincide with the State Board of Accounts audit report. We are working on them with people that are in the red for the audit report, which you have copies of also. They will have to come before you guys and get additional appropriations or do transfers. If you notice here's a copy of what you're looking for in your state audit report. Again, the way that the report is done, the auditor's office, most of the stuff fell under us just because of the way the code is written. There's a letter included. In that letter, I had put that I accept that there were some entries that weren't in the gateway system. However, my main concern was the overdrawn cash balances. And we had several funds that are overdrawn. They were overdrawn in 21, 22, and 23. It's one of the pages in your audit report that has the overdrawn. So hopefully by the next April meeting, that I will have letters or emails out to these people and get with them so that we can get them out of the red. They have to get out of the red. It's a state audit report.
Is this department, Sheila, that you wasn't aware of
The problem with some of the grants are they're refundable. They spend the money, then they have to send in their claims monthly or quarterly to the state to get reimbursed. I think some of them might be rollovers from that didn't get the reimbursements. When monies come in, we contact each of the departments and ask them what funds these go into, because again, they have so many. And again, they just say this is reimbursable, so we continue to pay the claims, thinking that they'll come back. I have already started a spreadsheet to keep track monthly of where we're at in them, and I would like to ask each of the departments to submit their monthly reimbursement requests that are made to the state, so that we can keep track of that, and hopefully, and because we ended with this audit report just a couple weeks ago, we will be written up again in 2024 for some of the same things, because we couldn't change them, we couldn't go ahead and get them out of the red. But as long as we're attempting to do it, they'll take that into consideration when they do the 24 audit.
Thank you, Sharon.
Is the K-9, is that,
Ryan's gonna have to come to you on that one. Again, you guys give a budget every year, and they don't have any funds in the budget. He knows that. He might be able to do some transfers within, get donations throughout the years, but they are gonna have to, we're gonna have to get him that. One of the other ones is action on your agenda tonight. She'll be up in a few to talk to you. So again, I've started, I'm just gonna watch each month anything that is in the red. We're either gonna have to bring transfers or additional appropriation requests each month, if that's what it takes, until we can get them out of the red and get them moving forward.
Thank you.
does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate the work that Sheila has done
Oh,
and
yes.
how important this process is. The auditor's name or the auditor's office shows up in these reports regularly, because that's where things roll up into. Doesn't mean the auditor had done anything necessarily wrong or right there, but that's the nature of these reports, because that's the fiscal officer. So from a public standpoint, I just want to make it clear, before there's any miscommunication or folks that come to conclusions, that it's not particularly the auditor. The other thing, too, is the whole point of these audits is for the purpose of internal controls and reporting and transparency, and so it's a good thing. It's important that these audits occur. We encourage the audits, and it's a learning opportunity and a chance to adjust procedures and continue moving forward. These are, links to these are going to be posted on my page here in the next day or two, and I'll add a little narrative to it. But I think it's important that we take the opportunity to learn from it and continue on. The other item that I want to talk about is the loan that's referenced for 911. We're all aware of that. That was purposely done. We did not know at the time that there was a 5-year limit, even though it was vetted by the attorney and we had all the ordinances in order. Quite frankly, the term we picked and the structure of that loan was the best taxpayer option. It wound up saving $20,000 in interest by doing it that way. But unfortunately, it doesn't meet the code requirement for a private loan, thus it was written up. I talked with the state examiner about that, and he kind of chuckled. And one of the other things he mentioned was back when he was first became an auditor, he had to write a county up on kind of the opposite. They had a certificate of deposit that was for too long of a time period, but it was getting 15% interest back in the day. Well, there's no way that they were going to cash that out as interest rates were dropping. I mean, that's not a good financial move, but he had to write them up because the law had a limit, of course, on the time limit for the CD. So you're going to have those little technical things. I'm not going to lose sleep over that write-up, and that loan, I believe, is going to be paid off or done in another year or two anyway. So I just want to make sure we address that for the record.
And the corrective action plans, that anything that was a repeat plan, we had to do a correction or a write-up. we had to do a corrective action plan. In that plan, it was going to be discussed in the council meeting and the commissioners, and they know that it can't be more than 5 years, so we won't be written up for 24 and 25. Just as long as it was discussed and mentioned, and we know moving forward, 5 years is the max, so.
I mean, what are the stipulations with that? I mean, 5 years, I mean, because not all loans would be 5 years, would they? I mean,
Yeah, it's just private commercial loans, just with the
Okay.
local bank, there's a limitation for that. Now, I will say that there is legislation being worked on right now to change that to 10 years. So it's possible, because of our situation, that there may be a change in the law that allows counties and local units to enter into longer periods of time. And quite frankly, we had to do 7 versus 5 because we only had a certain amount that we could budget to pay for the loan payment. If we made it a shorter time period, then the payment would have been higher and would have been outside of our allowable budget at the time. So that's kind of why we went that route. But again, it's being addressed, and I think it was good we did it, no regret, but I think that it's something that we want to make sure mentioned tonight, so.
In that report, it explains it a little bit on where you're at. Also, the capital asset plan. And it was done back in 2019. There was an ordinance that was done. The state gave a 2-year reprieve for counties to get it done. Beth has reached out to all the departments. We have the gentleman coming back in on the 27th at 10 o'clock to do another training on the program that we're actually using. We got to get it done, and that was the one thing that the state said that was one of the primary things that they'll be looking for. Plus, you also need all of those totals to know what your worth is in moving forward with the jail project.
Right.
So it's important. The commissioners want everybody to have it done by April 3rd. I don't know that we're going to quite make it, but they're moving forward. So.
And one thing on that financial report, I noticed jail housing had no activity. We had voted in January to transfer or pay for the jail commander's position as part of that wage adjustment we made. But I would imagine there would be by now some kind of money taken from that fund to cover those costs. So I'm wondering if that had maybe not been done in payroll yet. Yeah, there may need to be a correction or a redo on some transactions to make sure, because if not, we're shorting 1170, which we don't want to do, because a good chunk of the money we were trying to use to pay for that was by moving that position into jail housing. So if you could double check that, that would be helpful.
How is it possible that grant funds get overdrawn?
Reimbursable, their money doesn't come in. Some of them, again, just overspend.
And then, wasn't there some where possible expenses were, or the fund, I mean, the money itself was put in a different place, or is that possible?
I'm not sure if they applied for the full amounts to be reimbursed. If they didn't submit it to the state, they didn't get the money back. Again, you got one fund that's 14,000 in the red and one that's 16,000. So it's going to take working with them a little bit to see if maybe it got put in a different fund or a wrong fund. If they didn't apply for it, then they're going to have to come up with it from somewhere.
Do we know how many years that's been in the red? I mean, that amount? I mean,
21, 2, and 3.
What is the PHEP grant?
Public Health Emergency Preparedness,
And who facilitates that grant money?
the health department.
Sheila, has all the departments that are affected by this been given this report?
Yes, they were included when the state sent it out to each one of them that were written up. Some of them were direct, as the letter said, the sheriff and health department, and the highway. Again, those were direct issues that were given during the actual hearings or when our final audit went through. Those were direct reports that were given when she emailed it out. It went to all the commissioners, all the councils, and anybody that was written up.
Thank
So
you.
they're aware of their negative funds.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the audit report? All right, moving on to old business, jail project update. There's not a lot to report on that. We decided to, of course, cancel the joint meeting and wait to see what the legislation is about the property tax reform. So we kind of know what we've got to work with. So the plan is to have that joint meeting in April at some point. We had discussed about doing it in conjunction with our council meeting. I don't know, what does everybody think about that, or that sound good?
You're saying that it could be combined? Or
Yeah, kind of like we did with the commissioners. We did a joint meeting with them and they had their regular meeting. So maybe we could do something,
And we would have our regular meeting then?
right. So, does everybody
I
think
think
about
it's
that?
workable as far as I'm concerned.
Like prior to our council meeting?
Yeah, would we do it
I would do
prior?
it probably an
Yeah.
hour prior,
I think that sounds like a good idea
at
too.
least a half hour. So
Yeah.
we're hoping, again, by the April meeting, I don't know when legislative info will come back, but maybe you'll have it by then. We'll have more information from Jeff Peters, who's doing the financial background for you, and just filling in a couple more numbers will make a difference in a few more weeks. And hopefully we'll know what the state decision is.
Mhm. Be thinking about questions you want to ask, or what you want, information you want to know in that meeting. My hope is to have and we had everybody coming, to the meeting we had planned, but that big piece of information about the property taxes is pretty important. So, but I think question that Sheila and I have been talking about is, what is going to be our rating, as far as financially, and so hopefully Jeff Peters can tell us that at that night, so, yeah, Nick.
My concern is that I think the last time we talked about the jail with possible, all the additional adds to it was going to be like 31 million. And I thought the council had put a cap on 25 or 26 million back last year.
They were talking about 5 million in soft costs, and that seems like a huge amount. We were kind of hoping that some of the different contractors could come up with an itemized list, or at least a rough estimate of what what that entails. So, because that was a big amount.
Well, what I'm fearful of that, we put a cap on, but it seems like, I can't say they're not respecting that, but if we're going to fund the money and we're telling the taxpayers this is what we're going to do, then why are we looking at something $5 million in additional costs? They need to take their hard costs down if they're going to add soft costs to it.
Well, and the contractor's the one that was talking about the soft costs, not Elevatus, but, yeah, those are all
Made
good.
up too, we don't know what those are. Those
Right.
are computers and desks and carpets and blinds and just everything that goes into it. High-tech security camera systems versus low-tech security camera systems.
Yeah, Ryan, I spoke with him
There's
about
a
it,
lot.
and he thought that number was super high,
Yeah.
because they can use a lot of the stuff out of their current jail.
So that's a lot, hopefully we'll get most of our questions answered that night.
Nick, you're right, though, the price is 25 million, it's not 25 million and a penny. And that's what we have to stand for.
Well, that's what we told the public.
So I told the public, and unless there's an avenue there that can create revenue to, substitute the additional costs.
Good point.
Yeah, I think two things. The deadline for the legislative session is mid-April. So I don't know if you,
Mid-April? Well,
I
could we
don't know if you want to
could-
wait till May, to be honest,
Well, we
so we know
could.
the final
We would know
governor
for sure.
sign, done deal. Because even on April it'd be April the 14th, we wouldn't yet know, because to be honest, there'll be a lot of wheeling and dealing and final activity in that 48 hours, if you will, or so, of session. It
So we
says
could do
adjournment
that. We
April
could-
29th, so, and I don't think they're gonna go to the 29th, but it may be the week after
All right, we
even.
could
So-
do whoa, yeah, wait a minute. May's gonna be, unless we switch our meeting.
Or have a special meeting like we
Yeah.
did, that's just that topic. We could do that at the end of April, the last Monday in April, for instance, is the 28th. That probably would be safe. But, I mean, it doesn't matter, we can meet early, but there'll be some unknown there. On the 25 million, you know, we kind of been throwing a lot of numbers around here, and I think we just need to return back to our original motion, which was not necessarily the dollar amount specific, but it was that we are within our budget capacity and within our limits financially. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean 25 or 24.5 or.
It's the payment.
It's the fact that we have basically 1.3, 1.4 million per year allocated for a payment. The longer you wait, the less payments there will be, because if we're looking at the expiration of the jail tax as a limit, then there's less time to pay that back. But then there's also a greater down payment that we're accumulating on the front end, because our jail correctional facility fund
It's
keeps
accumulating,
growing, so there's
right.
more money down. So it's kind of a trade, in my opinion, there. But I would steer clear of set amounts, because it is a bit fluid at the moment. And we don't want to box ourselves into a project that we still can't afford. Because I think 25, we're going to be pushing it. So.
So there's a lot to
Yeah.
think about and talk about, so hopefully we'll know. But we'll just keep that open on whether, when to have that. So, all right, radio project update.
So not a whole lot's changed since the last meeting that, or the last report I gave you guys. Sorry. So there's not a whole lot that's changed. We had a meeting last week with IPSC, which is the state organization that oversees the 800 megahertz system. They heard that we were doing a big project down here, and they wanted to talk to us before we made any decisions. And they came and tried to sell to us that we need to take the money that's put aside for this radio project and enhance their system. So, and then migrate all of our radio traffic to their system. It would probably take most of the money that's been allocated for this system just to put in a tower for their system, and then we probably wouldn't have the money to buy the radios to go onto that system. I personally am not in favor of building out a tower and giving to the state to enhance their system. I think if we did build out a tower, we would still have a lot of areas in the county that were uncovered, because when you look at the map of where the towers are at for that system, if we put one like in the southwest side of the county or corner of the county, the northeast side of the county would still be uncovered. So I'm not in favor of us taking the funds that we have set aside for our project and enhancing their system that we still wouldn't have any control over.
Chris, I'm glad you brought that up. I had not heard anything about it. So we have another vendor, or is it the state?
The state heard that we were working on a radio project, and they just wanted to talk to us about that before we made decisions.
Yeah,
And is it your opinion that they kind of pitched to us to throw our money towards their project, or is that kind of the way you got it?
Yeah, they wanted to help us spend that money on their system.
but I
Yeah.
think in what we've talked and discussed, this other system is what we need, and we've already appropriated funds for it, is that not right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few hiccups that we're working through now. I'm trying to get set up with a meeting with the advisor for this week. Trying to get a meeting set up with him. There's a lot of questions that need answered. So that's kind of where we're at on this project right now.
So, appreciate it.
Any questions?
That advisor, is he the one that's come to a couple meetings, the commission meeting?
Yeah.
And he was talking like his fees 80,000.
Yeah, when you get right down to the brass tacks, yeah, there was money hidden in other areas that would be going to him. There was 40 or 50,000 that was for his fees, and then the tower, to build out the tower out at Patricksburg, he had a price in that went to him, and once you got looking into things, he was getting a little bit more than what we was thinking he was gonna get.
Is he still your advisor?
Pardon
Is he
me?
still the advisor on the project?
Yes, currently, yes. So. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, moving on to new business. We've got the department liaisons appointments that we need to do. We want to just pass it around and check them off? Is that what we want to do?
Yeah.
That's what we gonna do.
Check my name on everything, won't you, Will? So you'll check my name on everything, yeah? I'll get all that for you.
Are you replacing Andy? He only had one last year.
You know.
I think I can fill those shoes.
That provision expired. Our maybe Joe, you were the appointment to
The court.
the JRAC and that. I think maybe one adjustment is, because I had probation at one point, maybe you would go ahead and be the liaison for them since you're already there, if that's one adjustment to make. Because there's an X here under my name for that. I don't mind keeping the rest of it the same.
I just want to share everything
Highway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind taking on highway.
We could all.
Somebody closer to the courthouse and IT, take IT, because I know nothing about IT. Not my realm.
Anybody taking the offices in the courthouse? Assessor, clerk?
Well, I mean, that's what we're,
I would take those.
how about I'll just start passing this
Oh,
down.
that's all.
And you go, and everybody. And if one department, I mean, we can have two, 3 liaisons,
If they're
the
big.
department, so,
big ones
yeah,
need 2,
right.
at least. Highway,
Mhm.
sheriff, EMS.
Mhm.
Those are the 3 biggies
So,
that should have 2.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, while
The
we're
rest-
doing
The
that,
rest don't necessarily need 2, but,
Diane, you want to come up while they're doing that? You can come up and explain.
I am here to talk about my registration election 12-15. We ended in the positive last year,
Yeah.
started in the positive.
Is your mic on? Okay, there we go.
This, the 12-15 funds are, where they get their money is from the settlement. and the settlement piece that comes to us is getting smaller and smaller. Last year, 117,000 is what we paid out, and our part of the settlement was 49,201.11. And then we also, DLGF cut me 28,200. So from Fund 4902, we brought that over to help cover some of the expense. So it just keeps getting smaller and smaller. In 23, we brought in right over 44,000. Almost 69,000 went out. Now, there's some years we did good. 22, 69,000 came in, almost 99,000 went out. So we're slowly eating away at what we have. Now in 21, we had 70 come in and 48 go out. So we got a bigger piece of the pie on that one. Same thing with 20. We had 145,000, 95,000 went out. 19, 56,000 came in, 53,000 went out. In 18, 48,000 came in, 88,000 went out. In 17, 21,000 came in, 55,000 went out. And right now, we are negative $18,094.37. So the piece of the pie that we're getting from settlement is not supporting the fund.
Madam Auditor, is not that fund on its own tax levy?
It does. It gets settlement in June and December of each year, and it is in the levied funds. However, the levied funds keep getting cut. The state has cut them 3 times now, I believe. There was 77,000 that was put in the budget when we advertised. We added an extra 100,000, and of course the state cut that plus down the 77 to 76,000 something. So really, to me, if I think the best thing would be go ahead and fund the full amount of the budget, or she's gonna come back. You've gotta give her the 18,000 that she's in the red now, plus she has to make it until June settlement. She'll be right back in the red. We can't do an additional appropriation until your April meeting, so unless you wanna pay it from another fund, then you're gonna have to do an additional appropriation, and there's 2 more payrolls and 3 more claim cycles that will come in before June settlement. So she's looking at probably 50, 60,000 that she's gonna be in the red when the settlement comes in, and it's not even gonna be probably maybe a third, half of that. So then you would find yourself having to do additional appropriations again to make it until December settlement, right after she gets out of the red.
Madam Auditor, what's your recommendation we do then? The amount of money maybe we need to appropriate?
I would appropriate the full budget amount now. If you do that, that'll take her the 18,000 that she's in the red out. It'll carry her through December. What her December settlement comes in should be at that time gaining cash balance to get her through until the next June settlement comes in. You're supposed to be able to carry yourself from June to December or December to June.
How much is that amount that you're asking for, Diane? Or that we need to?
I would say the full amount.
The budget is $77,474.
And where might we want to take that? Is it a one-time shot, or do we want to take it from general?
You'd have to take it from the county general fund.
Okay.
Is the only.
Then I think we're up against the wall here. I make a motion then that we grant $77,474. It'd have to be advertised from the county general to fund the election, the clerk's election registration fund,
1215.
1215. And make it in the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Nick, seconded by Burl. Are there any questions on this?
So does this keep coming back? Is this gonna come back again next year and the following year and the following year?
Yeah.
Are we always gonna be not bringing any more money than we're spending out?
Well, I mean, and spending out, I mean, there's certain things you have to do when you have an election. We don't have an option. We have to have people that work and all that. We're not, I mean, last year, we got under $50,000. I mean, you cannot even do an off year on $50,000. I mean, we have to pay our election person. You know, we have maintenance on our equipment that is due immediately at the beginning of the year. There's supplies you have to have. There's not a big extra money. Our portion, it's just gotten so small that it doesn't keep up with this fund.
Early election hurts some too, doesn't it?
Do what?
The extra cost in early elections. The
Well,
early voting.
Yeah, and we're required to do some, I mean, we don't
Right.
have an option
Yeah.
on those.
Your
But-
levied funds are the pie, so to say. In order to give her more money to maintain that fund, you would have to cut one of the
Somewhere
others
else.
that are in there. EMS, the highway, the health department. EMS, highway can't afford it. The health department, you're committed to doing their 25% match out of that levy fund per the state rules. So there's not a whole lot of other places to take it from, unfortunately. So you're either gonna have to figure out a way to offset it, and I don't, again, that means it's gonna have to come out of the county general. It's the only place you have to offset it each year based on what the state gives. And like you said, they only got 50,000 last year. They're only due to get 76,000 and something this year.
47.
47, so you've got,
Yeah.
you're not, you're behind, no matter which way you look at it. So
And-
when you do budgets next year, you're gonna have to compensate that and use your general fund or somewhere that you can make the difference up.
And what I did when I came in 23 for the 24 budget, I went back and looked at the prior presidential election and other elections and looked at all the additional appropriations. And there was a few. And so when I came in at 116, right over $116,000, because that was a true, what it was going to cost to do everything without coming for an additional appropriation. And that's when DLGF cut it $28,200.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so I'm not particularly in favor of using the general fund. The whole, we knew during the 1782 process, the allocation, that this would be
The money's
near
gonna run
zero
out.
at the end of the year, and that the money would run out.
Right.
And the whole point was we needed the general to be solvent and the EMS and the other funds. So taking it from general is kind of counterproductive, in my opinion, for the general fund part, because otherwise we would have just already done that and, you know, given more to this and less from general a few months ago. I think that, you know, I would rather reevaluate later. I would want to redo the transactions that have already been spent at the start of the year, because I think your maintenance, your microvote contract was already expended.
13,000.
And when was that? January?
That was in January.
Okay. So, you know, take that and spend it out of something like Riverboat or some other source, and then apply the cash to this fund. The group health insurance, we could decide, that's 9,000, we could temporarily decide to pay for that out of edit like we do
that's
for
what I
all
was
other
wondering.
group insurance, and credit, or at least have that pay for it and not spend the 9,000 there. So now you're talking $25,000 there. I'd like to at least get to settlement at that point and then reevaluate. It is possible that we'll have to reappropriate or something later on in the year. But at least that would get it black, at least it would buy us some time there to reevaluate, and we're not spending the full amount out of county general now. But that's just an idea. Either way, we're gonna cover it. The budget is still good.
Right.
We're still gonna employ the individual, you know, there's nothing
No.
negative from an operational standpoint. It's just, where do we get the cash to cover it?
And the only thing that, you know, the small bit of raise that we got, everything else stayed the same. You know, I went, like I said, and looked at all the additional appropriations and what they were for, which is stuff that we have to have and have to pay, and put it all in that budget. And we have 7 more payrolls until usually settlement will be in June. The money will be dispersed in June. And so taking it up to June 13th, you know, to make it through to pay the election deputy.
Plus, didn't you say there was some 24 stuff that wound up being spent from the fund, kind of started you off behind at the beginning of this year?
No, not the beginning of this year. Prior, there was stuff that I had to pay that wasn't done. And then they took the 28,000 from me.
Okay.
So,
There was something there
We-
that I'm thinking about. Okay.
yeah, so we
Didn't
ended-
help,
We,
so.
by the time it was all said and done, and January 27th is when, we started going negative. We ended on around $8,000 at the end of the year, was our cash balance.
Yeah, and I think originally when we were projecting allocation, it was like the cash balance was supposed to be about 20. So we already took the hit right up front going into
Right.
the new year,
Right,
and that's what set us back.
right. Yeah, we'd had the 28,200.
Yep.
We-
Are other clerks from other counties experiencing the same thing?
That I don't know. I don't know how much of the, you know, some of them get a lot bigger parts to the settlement. And some of them have more clerks, but I have not talked to the other ones. I just know this is how we fund it. And I don't know if this is how the state sets it to be done, or if
It's purely a
set
local thing to us. It's not a trend. I mean, generally, if you think about things like tax reform and stuff, that's the trend. But as far as our allocation, no, that's a local decision. It's just there's less given here than the general fund or EMS, because we have to spread the money around.
It looks like more and more people are getting a piece of the pie.
Yeah, it's all a
So-
matter of the allocation. But at any rate, I think the point is we're still making good on the expenses. There's nothing there that's gonna change or be cut. And the more you help it now, the more you're helping your cash balance at the end of the year that's projected going into '26. Because then she's gonna have to have an increased budget anyway to cover the election at that year. So this budget isn't gonna be set at 77 in '26. It's gonna go up quite a bit to cover the election expenses. So either way, you're gonna have to allocate more money at that time anyway. But I'd rather use Riverboat for this.
What do we have in Riverboat? What is that
I think
balance?
it's 200.
232,000.
Okay. Yeah, I'd rather see it either in Riverboat or Lit Edit or something like that.
And we could do a little bit of everything. We could, if
Okay.
you're willing to entertain, and I know we've got a motion on the floor, we can amend it, but we could repurpose or reallocate, for instance, out of Riverboat to cover the 16,000 for Microvote and have that transaction redone, essentially. We could take the group insurance and pay for the balance of the year. And then if you want to do just a general appropriation out of Riverboat for, another 20,000 or whatever for the rest of the year, I think that would all help in different respects. And I think you're going to be in a lot better shape
Right.
as the
There-
year goes on.
Right. And when I figured, you know, about 28,000 is what I would need, that includes the negative, and not from, you know, and that's just doing payroll.
Yeah,
That's not
that's the bulk of it.
doing my supplies
Right.
that I have to have, or anything else that comes in.
Yeah, because the auditor, you know, from a payroll process, it's gonna be tough to just select and pay all payroll out of some other place for that period of time. Whereas here with maintenance and group insurance, there's 25,000 right there that are just in 2 transactions, you know, that can be more easily managed. I'm just thinking simplicity, but,
So do we want to make an amendment to his ruling or his motion, or do we want to just keep his motion as is?
and so the motion is to advertise out of the general fund for 77,000 or whatever.
Yes.
That's where it currently stands, okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on redoing those transactions, Sheila, if we choose to pick the maintenance and just reprocess that transaction out of, like Riverboat?
The 16 for the microboat.
Right,
We could move all the insurance, which is $9,016. There's your 25, do the 20 or the 28, because like she said, she's got 18 now that she's in red, so I would agree with the 28. That'll carry you through hopefully till the June. Get you there about halfway through, so.
Madam Chair, I would withdraw my motion.
So Nick withdraws his motion.
As of today, we have spent $26,158.46 from our 1215 fund.
right. And 16 of that's a pretty darn good chunk right there from the contract.
Yeah, 13,000 is what Microvote charges us. Then we have knowing, which is almost 3,000.
Yeah.
So that's what that is. And I will tell you that Microvote did contact all of us, and it is going to go up to 15,000 next year.
Okay.
This is only the 4th time in their 40 years they've had to raise their price.
Yeah, it hasn't really changed that much over the
Yeah,
We're lucky there,
we are lucky,
but it is due to increase like everything else.
right.
So Riverboat covers 16,000 for the microboat, move what insurance may have already been paid, edit balance for the $9,016, and then in general, 28,000. Is that,
Or Riverboat for the rest.
well, that
Yeah,
was.
that, whatever's left.
So
Is
how
that-
much would total be out of Riverboat? We've got 16,000 plus the
28.
28. Okay. And then 9,000 in edit.
Yes.
Okay.
And to be honest, on the edit part, we don't need an appropriation there because we usually have a cushion. So odds are, because we don't always spend, because not all positions are full, so that kind of saves us doing an additional appropriation. That can already be spent from the line. We're just authorizing that you use that line item instead of hers, so it's gonna go unspent. Now, there may have already been some deductions for, I don't know how often you pull from the individual line item, Sheila, for group insurance. Every 2 weeks. So there's some transactions that could probably just be redone out of edit there. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we advertise for a total of 40,
44,000?
is it 44? A total of 44,000 out of Riverboat to cover redo of the maintenance line item up to 16,000 and leave the additional 28 to spend from moving forward instead of using this fund for whatever purpose is needed. It could be a payroll, it could be supplies, but up to 28 there. And then we're gonna authorize Sheila to use the line item already in edit fund for group insurance to just absorb the cost of this position there and redo those transactions.
All right, there's a motion been made. Is there a second?
I'll say that.
Second by Joe. Any questions on that? All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, motion carried, 6-1. All right, thank you, Diane.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, additional appropriation request, prosecutor
Yeah,
user
too
fee.
thick. Been here? Is on here to talk about?
Yeah, and if, once Anton's done, if you bring it back here, and then I'll fill in wherever. Okay. So the prosecutor user fee fund, you want to explain? Is there anybody here from the
current
prosecutor?
vehicle is having issues. They have hired, actually somebody was sworn in Friday in their position, and then they need to get the vehicle fixed. Their current cash balance is $112,600. So they do have plenty of cash to do it. Their actual budget that's unspent is $60,000, so they still got $60,000 between now and the end of the year.
So it's this 5,000, is that what they're asking for here?
Yes.
Okay.
If you don't want to do the additional appropriation, you could transfer, and then if they need it later on, they can come back and ask for it. If you don't want to do appropriations.
Wow.
Yep. It's,
Sheila, can you do an in-house transfer?
They do have some funds that they could use to transfer, but that still might leave them coming back September, October, trying to, because they have to get the vehicle fixed.
Yeah, the budget at the moment is $31,900, and there's a dozen line items that have set expenses that they're anticipating for the year. None of them include repair of vehicle.
why
There-
was that not included?
Well, they only have one vehicle, and it's not that old, I guess, so there's not been this big need for it until now. They do have $2,500 for gas, oil, and lube. They do have $1,200 for travel expense and mileage, but there's no specific vehicle repair allowance. And we wouldn't normally want to just give $5,000 in a budget, blank check, if there otherwise wouldn't be repair. But I think we should proceed with the appropriation.
What if we took it out of the gas, oil, and lube, at least the 2,500, and then if they, if they need an additional appropriation down the road on that,
'Cause they'll need it, they'll need the gas, oil, and lube part.
I just hate having to do an additional appropriation this early in the,
It is an emergent situation, it is a separate fund for that purpose, they do have money. It has to be repaired one way or the other.
anybody have any discussion on that?
We need it.
I'll make a motion then that we advertise up to $5,000 for vehicle repair from Fund 2500 to line item 38300 to be considered at our next meeting.
Motion made, is there a second? Second by Steve. Any other questions on that? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. I think I would say in their budget, at budget hearings this year, they need to kind of take that into consideration.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to know, what exactly was the last time that vehicle was purchased? How old is it? It may be one of those things where they need to start thinking about just a replacement vehicle.
Oh, God, no.
No.
No, 5,000 is much cheaper.
Or utilizing like a used or pulling from another source, but I think that discussion needs to come up.
Yeah. I'd rather do the repairs. All right, on to commissioner meeting review and requests HR position and salary.
You're still working.
Yeah, I'm about to give it to you.
Need some darts.
How are you?
Oh, I'm tired. How you doing? On the HR, we talked to another guy who was retired. And we told him basically what we thought the price would be to get somebody here. And they laughed at us. Okay?
And that was 50,000, right? Was that
Well,
50,000 that you were?
He said, well, you were, you were there,
I was,
right?
well, I wasn't at the HR meeting, but I was at the last
Oh, okay.
commissioners meeting.
Well, he said good luck finding, what was it, 75,000, Sheila?
And that was possibly 20 hours a week.
Right, that was part-time.
It originated at 140.
Right. For an HR, but, no, it's all about fishing. I think if we can go get somebody here and shoot out for $50,000 a year, we may find somebody that's retired, but we don't know till we try. We can always go up, but we can't come down.
So I'm confused because I didn't think we were hiring somebody. I thought we were going to contract with a firm that specialized in this field and utilize them as we need to. And
From what I'm understanding is that people want them to be here if there's any kind of problem, any kind of issue. If we get, let's say we wreck a truck, with the highway department, drug testing shows up, that's an HR, that's where HR stepped in. If anybody has an issue with their boss or another employee, they can come right there to them and say, hey, we have an issue, and go from there. So what we're shooting for is somebody here at $50,000 a year, see if we can find one.
because if that's the route we're going to take, we need a job description that outlines what this person will be doing.
Understand?
We need a wage review from Wagner Irwin that sets the appropriate wage level for that type of position based on the job description. If that's the route that the majority of the council wants to take, then those are the things that need to happen. Now, if the council doesn't want to do that, that's an option too, of course, but you'd have to contract. You'd have to set a certain amount, seek out a firm that will provide services, and yes, it won't be in-house or it won't be that element, but it could be other important HR components too. But we have to pick one or the other. We can't spin wheels on it. We have to go one route or the other and make sure the ducks are in a row.
So Dave, you're talking about having someone full-time
Here at the courthouse,
here in the courthouse,
or in a building close.
okay? And the oversight would be the commissioners,
Yes, sir.
okay? I'll be honest, I don't know if we could find a qualified person, and I'm not trying to
I'll
underestimate
be honest
anything.
with you, I don't
for
think we
that
can meet her
amount
for
of money.
$50,000, but it's worth a shot.
Well, I still believe that we should contract this service out, at least in the beginning. I do think maybe in the long term, we hire somebody, but that contract service is going to lead us in the right direction to getting this person. They're going to set it all up. They're going to figure it out. By that time, we're going to understand what we do and do not need. if we hire the wrong person the first time, you know how hard it is to fire people in a government job? And I just think it's the wrong thing to do. And $50,000 is not gonna do a good HR person. We are gonna be in the 75. Then we're gonna have, we've got insurance and all the other perk that comes along with it. I think we're,
Well, and then you're
and we don't
looking-
have the answer to who we need or what we want them to do yet.
And my problem is, I mean, if we have an HR person that we're paying $75,000 to, they're making more than any of our other department heads, elected officials, anything like that.
Well, that's why we came up with that $50,000 number.
I just have, I mean, we had talked about looking at firms. Did anybody look at a firm or just,
I think money-wise, it's not gonna happen. So, I mean, if you tell me, hey, you're good for $150,000, we'll have one here tomorrow.
Well, what about our time clock deal? Dave was gonna, none of them worked out.
well, I mean, if you were talking about HR being part
Yeah.
of that, I think Sheila explained that before, that it really is not.
It's more for the onboarding of the timekeeping system. It's not the general HR, somebody to go to or lodge complaints or work with or.
It ain't something that we can use part-time or,
No, it's not. I have Sam on speakerphone for you guys also.
I know one avenue we spoke about was more of a clerical administrative person that handles the day-to-day of onboarding, your insurance, the stuff that's non-confrontational with employees and employers. And then if there was, I don't know what it's called in the private sector, but in the government sector, it was something such as a grievance against your boss. If that clerical or administrative person could not come to a resolution using the county handbook, and it was something that needed to go, like a recommendation to the commissioners, then there would be a board between the commissioners and that person that would review once a month if there was an issue. And if they couldn't squash it, then it would go to the commissioners. I know if you got into a contract service, depending on, they're gonna want a 1 or 2 year contract. And if we start burning up $30, $40, $50, $60,000 within the first few months, we're still on the hook for another year of it. Then we could be getting really expensive.
Right.
Obviously, the job description needs to be there before
Understood.
money can be moved either way.
No, but I don't think anybody's asked. I mean, we've done small HR firms that are, $150 a month for 8 employees. So I don't know what that makes for 200 employees, but I just don't think, if we haven't asked, we don't have that answer.
Yeah, and I know we need to compare to other counties as well, what Greene and Clay are doing. Because we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can mock what somebody else is doing.
Did you guys, I mean, have you guys reached out to Greene County or Clay County?
Me personally, no, I have not.
Would be interested
Yeah.
to know what they're doing.
And there could be a partnership if you've got a professional
heard
that
that
truly
before,
does
too.
cost
I know
good money.
we were gonna talk to Green about that, but as far as I know, we have not yet.
Yeah, that might be, if you are going the route of a hire, or at least contracting an individual that's providing in-person services, there could be a partnership with a neighboring county. Neither county could afford an exclusive solution,
Right.
but both counties might be able to share
Right.
a solution. But otherwise, like Steve had alluded to, I mean, we've already gone this far without anyway. And I know it's still a need, but if we were to at least focus on the core consulting, critical decision-making, the compliance and process stuff, if we could tap into that through a professional firm like Wagner Irwin has offered to do, you wouldn't need to spend $50,000. Bartholomew County, which is a lot bigger than us, they spend 10, I believe. So
For
now
HR.
they have an in-house though,
Oh,
but
okay.
as far as reaching out and getting into that professional service, you know, they have a retainer and they tap into that where needed. And we could do the same thing for a fraction of the cost. The other thing, as Steve mentioned, is that, you know, we may not know all the questions to ask or what exactly we need, but that may open up our eyes to what we do need.
And that's kind of.
Or don't need, right?
If I didn't say that, that's what I meant.
Well, that's what he was alluding to, and
Right.
we could then adjust for the next year, because we're gonna have budget hearings in August, we're gonna be setting 26. We can have a lot more of we're still moving forward in the direction we need to be heading,
Right.
but we're not taking a huge bite, we're not overcommitting on staff, and we're kind of being very conservative with it. I'm more in favor of that approach, but it's really gonna depend on what the majority of the council feels.
And I think we have to remember that we're creating another taxpayer-funded position.
Yeah.
And not just, if we hire a person, it's not just the 50,000 salary, we're talking benefits as well.
Right.
And I've
So,
been watching a whole lot of Doge, so don't get me started on that.
I would like to reach out a little bit more about the other counties and see what they do and see if they would be interested in partnering.
We can do that. We'll get a hold of Green, see what I know they got something like that up there, so we'll get a hold of Green and see what they say.
Yes.
I think you guys need to talk to Sheila, because she knows more what's going on with the insurance,
Yeah,
and
she gets a lot of
hiring.
that.
Let's hear it, Sheila.
So,
It's tough.
I mean, there's a workload there. I agree, you're creating another full-time
Government
position.
taxpayer-funded position.
If there's a way to partner with the county, if there's a way to more target the specifics of what you're looking for and getting the job description and those kinds of things, if we can't contract with another county. We've been doing it, we'll get through a few more months while this is happening. Yes, a perfect world, one getting funded and getting one now would be better in the transition, but we've been doing it anyway, so we'll reach out to other counties. I'll send out an email tomorrow to the auditors group and see what they have, and if they're partnering, is it something any of them would consider? In the meantime, no matter what we do, we've got to have a job description, we've got to have some kind of a guideline of what you're looking for. And I think we're still waiting on the attorney to kind of get those put together for.
And I don't mean to speak for everybody, I'm pretty sure that we as a council know how important HR is. I mean, so we're not, you know, squashing this, we just want to be sure we go about it in the best fiscally way possible.
And we appreciate the work. It's, you know, it's a
Yeah.
discussion that really hadn't been given a lot of time previously, and it is now.
And it's very important.
And that's
very-
good, so. yeah.
We're gonna be working on it.
Yeah.
So. All right.
Thank you, Dave.
Yes, sir.
Dave, well, just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Where are we at on the capital improvement plan as far as the attorney and drafting an ordinance for that?
I know he has,
List.
yeah.
Okay, it's on the
all.
list. Still being worked on?
I don't know where he's at, so.
All right, just want to make sure that's still on the radar.
It's still on the radar.
Yeah, okay.
They have the information that we got from the state in what is required in the
Okay.
plan and what they need to be doing. And again, it's on Tony's list to do.
Dave, I was talking to Anton, if you and Sam get with Anton, that Wagner contractor he was talking about offers that service, and he said it's like $95 an hour. Something to definitely look in, he knows more about it.
Yeah.
Send me that phone number.
Yeah, I can get you the contact info. Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, on to abatement, Henry Holsters.
Good evening, council. Tonight, I bring before you the abatement for Henry Holsters and the recommendation from the Abatement Review Committee. But before I go ahead and read that recommendation, I'd like to go ahead and introduce to you the owner of Henry Holsters, Mr. Andrew Henry, and he is joined tonight by Josh Malencuck with JM Advocates. And if it would please the council, I thought it'd be great if Andrew had an opportunity to talk about Henry Holsters, let you know about his company and the investments he's made within Owen County and the investments that have brought us here tonight.
Please do.
Wasn't sure when to come up and see. I did bring a small brochure, which you wanted to see some pictures of the facility. Anthony's been there.
And I plan
And
on
I would
coming
love
as
to
well.
have any of you who wanted to come see it. We are located right up by the corner of 4346. We share a driveway with the McCormick Creek Rehab Center. I've been operating this business in Owen County since 2013, first in Salisbury and now here in Spencer. We purchased in 2020 the old stamping specialty shop where we're currently located and refurbished it extensively. We have 25 employees, 19 of them are full-time, 7 of those reside inside Spencer. I moved to Indiana to go to the Jacobs School of Music and had a background in violin making, and then got into CNC machining because that's what you do with a music degree. You get a real job. We manufacture gun holsters, tool and die work, and then do precision assembly and fulfillment operations for a number of holster companies all over the country, doing jobs as small as a few dozen here or there to orders as large as the entire Netherlands National Police Department. And so we distribute nationally. A lot of our things are private labeled, so we have a number of companies where we are their entire manufacturing hub, and we ship to all their customers across the country. We have an 11,000 square foot facility, and this spring we've made a significant investment in new CNC machinery with a focus on automating some of the more monotonous, heavy lifting, machine loading, and part changing operations so that our staff can get more jobs run in less calendar time by running some jobs unattended, but also just cut down on some of the monotony of loading and unloading lots of parts and lifting heavy metal things in and out of machines. And so we have requested an abatement on that one large automated piece of equipment that should be able to be in service later this spring. It is a custom machine that we built for us in Japan and then moved here in pieces. And I think it's a really exciting investment. It allows us to take on more challenging and higher precision work. We've had a number of high school groups come through and tour our facility. Owen Valley was here a few weeks ago. Brown County is going to come in a couple of weeks. We've had some students from Bloomington South and some middle school students from Cedars Christian School in Bloomington all come out and see it, the overall shop, because I'm really excited about great jobs in small manufacturing companies, and I'm really excited to be in Owen County. Monroe County would not be excited about having anything remotely firearms related in any way, and so I've been grateful to be here. We had to have some fun meetings when we moved to the building in Spencer. We had to meet with the postmaster because we were all of a sudden going to start shipping way more packages through Spencer Post Office. We shipped, I think, close to 30,000 parcels through Spencer Post Office last year, which made my mail guy happy. He's like, I got job security. My route's locked down. They're not adding anything to my route. I am set. So I would love to show any of you who want to come to the facility. We are open Monday to Friday, 8 to 4. We don't run any weekend or nighttime shifts. We have a really great team. It's a nice, clean facility doing really interesting manufacturing and assembly, and I'm very proud of it. But it's the first time we've invested in a single large piece of equipment that justified even considering applying for an abatement. Up to this point, we've grown by scaling in a very small way. We have a number of CNC machines. We've purchased those gradually, financing them through a local bank, and then paying them off aggressively. But this kind of machine is of a size and of a complexity that it was not feasible for us to simply put a big deposit on it and then pay on it monthly without any other considerations. So it's very exciting for me, and our team is very excited about it because it's going to give them lots of new capabilities. The abatement process is totally new to me, so this is our first go-round. Do you guys have any questions?
Where did you say you was located?
We are right behind the McCormick's Creek Rehab Center at the corner of 43 and 46, next to the Owen Valley Christian Fellowship.
Yes. You probably drive by it all the time and don't even realize it's there.
We don't have any signage on the outside of the building or along the road. We're kind of hidden away back there. next to the mini storage.
So this would be on that piece of equipment, right? And
Yes, so in this brochure, we actually do have a clip art, a stock image of that actual piece of equipment. It's on the inset on the left side. It is a 5-axis machining cell with an automated pallet pool. Those yellow objects in the picture represent where the individual work pieces would be loaded, and then the machine has a robotic arm that places them into the work area for milling operations and then retrieves them out and presents them to the operators for unloading.
Have you received this piece already and using it?
We have parts of it. It's not operational.
And this investment in automation actually increases and creates 2 new jobs, is that correct?
Yes, we expect to, with the additional throughput, because a lot of the things that we're machining also require quality assurance, they require cleaning, post-processing and finishing, and assembly operations, in addition to machine operation. We expect to create 2 new full-time positions before the end of this calendar year to work with the additional capacity this machine will give us.
Does most of your staff live here in Owen?
Probably a third of our staff live in Owen County. We have employees in Greene County. I don't think we currently have any employees in Clay County, and we have a number of employees in Ellettsville and Bloomington.
What was the cost on this piece of equipment?
The overall cost for peripherals and the ancillary accessories to enable it to function is about $750,000.
And how long do you want this is a
So I have a recommendation, if you'd like for me to go ahead and read that from the review committee.
Thank you.
Because the review committee then scores the information in the application. So I will read it word for word as I do every resolution, recommendation. Now therefore be it resolved by the Spencer Owen Economic Development and Abatement Review Committee as follows. The review committee convened on the 24th day of February 2025 at BBP Water Corporation to evaluate and score the tax abatement application submitted by Henry Holsters. The Abatement Review Committee examined specific factors such as personal property investment, additional workforce, wage earnings, benefit packages, infrastructure improvements, internship opportunities, community involvement, and more. The Review Committee feels confident that Henry Holsters will continue to meet all requirements which are in accordance with the Statement of Benefits. The Review Committee has reviewed the SB-1 PP Personal Property Form. After careful consideration of the application, the Abatement Review Committee recommends that Henry Holsters be offered an 8-year abatement pursuant to the terms set forth by the Owen County Council. This recommendation was so motioned first by Kurt Rosenberger and seconded by Todd Gardner. The Spencer Owen Economic Development and Abatement Review Committee is directed to provide a copy of this resolution to the property owner, the Owen County Auditor, and the Department of Local Government Finance, duly resolved and adopted this 24th day of February 2025 by the Spencer Owen Economic Development and Abatement Review Committee, Owen County, Indiana, having been passed by a vote of 4 in favor and 0 opposed.
So a couple of questions. Where is like the SB1 and the where's that documentation at? Because that's not been supplied to us. So, because I'm missing, like, normally we know what the project is, how much the investment is. There's
Right.
usually a chart of the abatement.
I have a copy here, but I'm sure that I've
That's
seen
what
that.
I'm missing in this, because I was thinking, there's more to this than what
Well,
we're looking at.
And it's usually, we can see like your score on, there's.
Yeah,
I have a copy.
yeah, maybe we can get
There
that to
should have been one in the
Sheila.
packet.
Maybe we can get some photocopies and get that redistributed. The other thing I want to make sure of that we're compliant on from a legal standpoint, and this may require a follow-up something, is when we had done some previous abatements, one of the stipulations is you can't get the abatement if the property is already operational or
Correct,
something.
that's correct.
And so,
That's been explained.
are we good? I know you've ordered it.
Yeah, it's not operational.
And that's fine, that's allowable for something to be already be ordered, committed to. I would just want to make sure we're not stepping the wrong direction there.
From a legality standpoint.
Yes.
As long as the tax abatement is approved with a confirmatory resolution before the assets are placed into service for federal depreciation.
Okay,
then you'd still
perfect.
be in compliance with the vote and with the approval.
Because I think the winery, when we did the last abatement, they wanted it, they ordered it, but it was not installed yet or operational. They
How
had
many years did we do that one?
We did it on
Was it
a
5?
sliding scale.
Right, was it 5 for
It
6
was
years?
5.
5
Okay.
years?
Or maybe,
At least 5.
It was 5.
Yeah.
But didn't they get a 10, the Mayor Mill? Was that a?
I don't think it
We
was
could do it.
10.
No, it was 10.
I don't think
You can
it
go
was
up to 10.
Yeah.
You can go up to 10,
Yeah.
that's based upon the score that
Yeah.
comes from the scoring of the application.
What is your timeline? Like assuming everything comes together, everything comes in,
Yep.
you're looking at installation, at what point do you look at as far as the operationability, that trigger?
I would expect this not to be operational until, if everything goes smoothly, it's a complex machine that comes in multiple pieces and has to be integrated by several different companies. I would expect it not to be able to be operational before mid-April.
Okay. And the reason why I ask that is because I want
Yeah.
the rest of the documentation.
Sure.
And can we make a decision in April, at our April meeting?
Yeah,
Which would be what date?
The 14th?
what is the
Yeah, I think
timeline
that's
on
the second.
abatements that they, I mean,
At this point, because he
Yeah.
doesn't have one, it's just whenever you decide to go ahead and
okay.
vote.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I was thinking that there was like a
That's if you've already got an abatement, then you have to meet certain
Okay.
requirements to get them at a certain time.
so,
Would that be
Yeah.
unreasonable, though, to
no,
get
I'd
the rest
rather
of the
look into
documents?
it a little bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, my concern right now is how much would this decrease our property tax revenue that we've already are looking at decreased? I mean, that's the
It's not
only.
going to decrease our property taxes, the abatement
Well, we
for
wouldn't.
personal property that we're not collecting already.
Right, it is
So do you-
future
okay,
value is what
well,
they
yeah,
have.
that's what I
Right,
mean,
yeah.
but,
Yeah, time out. This is the first one I've done. Explain what we are given an abatement for.
So it's a
Piece of
business
equipment.
personal property. It's got a value. Normally, it would be valued and assessed, and he'd pay property tax on
Right.
the value of that. But what they're wanting to do is, in order to make the investment work, simply put, they're wanting an incentive, and basically, they'll not pay property tax on the new
Piece of
investment
equipment.
for the period of time we approve, which in this case, 8 years is what's being recommended. Now, I don't know if that's phased in or complete, but we'll have to review that paperwork. But, so for that time period, that new value is not going to be taxed. Now, then it will be, once the abatement expires, then that goes into the pool and he pays tax on it at that point.
Oh,
How would the assessor's office know if he has a piece of equipment inside of a building?
you have, I mean, if it's
Yeah.
anything like ag, you fill out a form that's due May the 15th, and I can't remember the number of the form, but it's for business personal property, and you have to declare the amount of,
There's some reporting element, there's
Right.
an assessment element, there's a couple different ways that things come together over
Economic
time.
Development keeps track of all the abatements for the town and the county. We review all of those abatements every single year and bring a recommendation before the governing bodies. And Sheila or the auditor, whoever is the auditor, make sure, again, everything has to be filed with the auditor and it has to be filed with Department of Local Government Finance. It is a phased in. All abatements that we have in Owen County are phased in, so an 8-year abatement on year 1 would still be 13%. It gradually gets back up to 100%.
Good, okay.
The other part of this worth mentioning is that.
That'll be in your paperwork when you get the rest of the information.
Yes.
sorry.
Okay.
Until the equipment is placed into service, it's assessed as construction in progress, and that construction in progress value can't be abated. So you'll see tax revenue for any kind of holdover of the project as at the end of the year. So there will be some tax on that. They also have equipment that won't be abated because it's been in place for a while, so you'll see tax revenue from that no matter what, despite the approval of the year plan.
So
So
is there
in
some-
year 2, you'll also see revenue from the phase-in of the equipment tax.
Is there something listed in here that shows what you will be taxed after the 8 years, or does it fall off after a certain time?
It's an estimate that far out because tax rates change, but you could technically take the current tax rate and apply it to the number of units in the, the number of hundreds.
Yeah,
and
the
come up
value of
with
the
a
equipment
rate.
does
Yeah.
depreciate over time. So its exact value
Yeah.
8 years from now is going to be somewhat subject to what the market bears for used equipment of that type.
And you'll determine that.
It's hard to determine, but it's subjectively determined over time, based on current sale rates.
Yeah, and if you looked at it today like no abatement and you just, boom, there you go, value changed, then on the next tax year, you could do a rough idea of what it would cost. But then that portion of it would decrease over time because of the depreciation.
Yep.
Real
But-
quick, how many employees do you have again?
We have 25 employees.
And this new piece of equipment, how many will you add?
I expect to add 2 new full-time positions before the end of this year related to this specific piece of equipment.
And when's the next piece of equipment we buy?
Hopefully next year.
All right.
Probably not this size. This is a pretty big chunk for us to bite off, so I don't think that we're going to be biting it off every year.
I'm all for this. I call
Still has to
for a vote
purchase
right
it.
now, but I think everybody wants to see that paper. But I'm all for people spending money in this county. Because you said you have 1/3 employees in Owen County.
Yes.
That will change. How long have you been here in Owen County?
I've been in Owen County
The
10...
business.
The business has been in Owen County 10 years. We did not hire our first employee until 2017, and we had 4 or 5 employees when we moved to Spencer, and since moving to Spencer in early 2021, we have grown to 25 employees.
What is your
We'll
average
see more of
salary?
that.
Most of our employees are hourly in production and assembly. Our average salary is a number I'd have to check. I don't know off the top of my head.
You probably ought to put that in that.
It's in the packet with the.
Oh, is it?
but Can you talk to the
Okay.
average amount that you would, starting pay that you had talked about?
So for a position like the one we would have working with this machine, starting pay would hourly be in the $25 an hour range. For an experienced machine operator, we typically aren't looking for equipment of this caliber at an inexperienced person coming in green. We do provide a lot of on-the-job training, but this is kind of like an F1 car, and I don't want to put a student driver in it. We want somebody who's been around the track a few times, who knows how to shift.
Right.
Real quick, Joe, so the abatement process is to lure companies to come here and create jobs in this town, where that money gets spent in this town, gets taxed in this town, and back into the coffers of the government. So when you look at the abatements, that's what that's for. If you go buy that $1 million record, you want some kind of abatement in that thing for a driver, for, benefiting this town, a new shop with all new equipment, so you will hire more people. And that's why we want to give the abatements, because we want to lure the people here, to create the jobs, to bring the money, flow the cash, to keep this hamster on the wheel.
I know over the last number of years, I've been asked why we would give abatements, because there's a lot of people out there that just does not want us to give abatements. But I think it is, as Steve said, it is a very wise investment. We know it takes 8 years to get any money out of you on that, but you're established, you got 25 employees, you're going to hire 2 more. For us not to take that into consideration, I think we would be kind of naive. I agree with Steve, I have no problem if we had all the documents. Yeah, I think we could. So is this time frame going to be workable?
I mean, certainly I don't want to put pressure on you guys to vote on a thing you haven't seen clearly. I believe in government transparency, and I wouldn't want to request that you do something and rubber stamp a thing you haven't been able to read in detail. If I were in your shoes, I would absolutely want to review the entire packet. We will roll with it as it comes. Obviously, I'd prefer to have the door open sooner rather than later, just because coordinating all the installation and the various pieces coming in and getting powered and getting connected and things, at some point, if it was like, oh, well, we'll review it in July, I'd be like, oh man, I don't think we can wait that long. I guess if we got it all set up before then, having to have it sit while we waited for the abatement to be reviewed would be very difficult to do.
So we meet in April?
Yes, so
14th?
I'm gonna make a motion that we postpone official action, consideration on this abatement request, and that we will get the information that we don't have. That includes the SB1, the personal property form, the abatement scale, and perhaps just an overview or a written summary of what
It's all in there.
Yeah, what you are wanting to do, you know, the piece of equipment, the value of that equipment, you know, to fill in those gaps. And I think as the sooner we get that, she can email that to us. We'll have what we need to review it over the next few weeks. And then when we have it on our agenda on the 14th, and this is still my motion. That's my motion, by the way. Postpone it to April, but you know what we need. Yeah.
There's motion, is there a second? Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Thank you very much. Really appreciate that.
Pardon?
April 14th?
Yes.
Well, and I'm just all for it. Plus the CNC work.
Oh, it's cool.
I know. I'll be down.
It is really neat. It is neat.
Carved metal is pretty.
Oh, man.
All right, on to salary ordinance confirmation summaries.
Make a motion to allow Sheriff Lady sign those salary orders.
Second.
Motion made by Nick, seconded by Anton. All those in favor? Motion carried. All right, elected officials and department head comments. Yes, Baron.
I had one of my senior citizens come up to me here a couple days ago because I think she read something in one of the newspapers or something. And she says she had an envelope, you know, Social Security. And she says, I got a question for you. And I said, well, go ahead and ask. I don't remember everything. She says, if you take $32 million they talk about, and you divide it by 150 prisoners, that's $213,000 per prisoner. She says, how can you justify that? And I said, I don't know. And I thought maybe what I'd do is just ask you, how do you, I know those numbers are kind of silly, but the thing about it is that that's the way some of the people look at it. They take the project at $32 million, which was said somewhere, and they divide it by 150 prisoners, and they come up with $213,000 per prisoner. And they thought, how can criminals be worth that to the taxpayers? That was your question.
I think what you're asking, Baron, is the fact that they're going to depreciate all that money in one segment. Well, actually, we're looking at a jail that hopefully will accommodate the county for 30 years or 35 years. So I think if you work that into the equation, I know it's probably not popular. I hear it out there all the time.
It's not 150 prisoners, it's over 30 years.
Yeah, but I do think that if the state is breathing down our neck like we hear they are, I don't want to pay any fines to the state. We've done that over the years, and sometimes they're just not user-friendly. So.
I think a big one, Baron, is, a bigger question is why we use county employees and county taxpayer money to build a facility to arrest folks that have violated a state law and not a county law. And we get zero help from the state, but we get all the guidance from the state. I've asked several of the higher-ups, where's our help and why do you require this? And it's nothing. The fact that the state police can arrest somebody in this county, drop them off to our jail, and we have to pay for it is a problem as well. And I don't know who can fix that, but they need more people knocking on the door asking that question.
But Joe, also the flip side, and that's a good point, but you have the town as well. Are they going to put any skin in this game?
I think you can require it.
Well, we discussed that a little bit, even with 911.
I was thinking that the hookup for the sewer project was going to be, I thought I heard somebody say a couple $1 million.
800,000?
Is 800,000? And that's what, that supposedly goes to the town.
Sewer? Sewer was more than that.
Oh, was it?
I heard 2 million, but, and so, and do we not accommodate the town? Where would they take their arrestee, the people they arrest, if they didn't? Well, if we didn't accommodate them. If we said, oh, no, this is county, was they arrested in the county proper, or was they arrested in the town? Because they have their own budgets, they got their own money. It's a pet peeve, I reckon.
You're onto something, you should keep going.
Well, and that's why when we were gonna have the jail, meeting, that I invited the members of the town council to come as well. Because, I think these conversations need to be had. So hopefully when we do have our meeting, that they'll be there and we can discuss this. there's a lot of things that need to be looked at, not only on our level, but on the state level as well. Because it's still problematic that when, we had our jail lit tax, then the town got a big portion of that. And they didn't need it, and they didn't ask for it, but, so there's things that need to be discussed.
should be redirected back to the jail anyway.
Check. Can we check that, because I did not understand that they would get any of the tax.
How much what is the portion that they get?
Yeah, that particular category of local income tax, Nick, has to be distributed among multiple taxing units. And in the case of public safety, it would be the county and the 2 towns.
Wow.
Now, I believe the towns collectively get 20%. So, we get 80 cents on the dollar that's raised, they get 20 cents on the dollar. Spencer, I believe, is 17 and Gosport's 3, or some kind of, again, rough math, don't quote me there, but it's population-based. And that's just the way the law is set up for that particular type of income tax.
Then maybe the 2 corporations could put 20% back into this kitty?
Anything's possible. You would just have to have an agreement, an interlocal agreement with that entity to do that. And it's been done with other projects in the state. I'm not sure about a jail, but it's kind of in the realm if it's negotiated.
The sad thing is, though, if somebody gets in trouble, it would be the county. They wouldn't probably come after the towns. If we get fined, it's going to be...
And we're not just talking about fine, we're also, lawsuits as well from...
county. We have to fend ourselves. The legal cost, yeah. I don't know, it seemed to be an out of bounds here somehow.
All right. Any other elected official and department head comments?
I think our EMA director had an update.
Jack?
Yeah, this is kind of for the new members or anybody that wasn't here when we discussed this before. But the Siren Committee met with the Department of Homeland Security Mitigation Division, and we're ready to order 2 more sirens. With that will be the state or FEMA, whoever is writing the check, I'm not sure, it'll come to us through the state. It will be for 75% of that cost. We're going to try to match that 25 with in-kind donations. And we're talking the total for the 2 sirens, if my math is correct, is a total of $82,540. So, 25% of that,
21,000 generally. Yeah.
2635 is what I can go ahead and tell.
Yep.
I just kind of wanted your blessing before I order these things tomorrow. That's a lot of money, and I just, like I said, I want to bring the newer guys up to speed and just confirm. I've done the same thing with the commissioners the other day, and I'm ready if you guys are.
I think it's very much needed. They're talking about bad weather this weekend.
They can't come soon enough.
Not that fast.
They can't come soon enough.
The sooner the better.
Where the siren going? One's going on Adale Road, just south of Braceville, and the other siren is going on a piece of property that I guess the county owns, nobody owns.
It's in
Across
Cuba.
from the Cuba Church. And those were decided by the Siren Committee. The mapper would bring up the map of Owen County with 1 mile and 2 mile circles around our current sirens, and we would look at the areas that had the biggest no coverage, and we would compare that to population and distance we thought we could get out of those new sirens. Nothing of specific formula, just trying to do the best we could. Anton and Suzanne Simmerly and Bruce Hammond, myself were all on the committee.
Do we need to make a motion on something like that?
I'm not sure. We already kind of had approved this early on. And Jack, I was looking back through our notes, it was May of 2023 when this new discussion came back. It was post-tornado, if you remember. It's hard to believe it's been 2 years almost. That this process began. We did a phase 1 and a 2. This is phase 3, the final 2 sirens here. And this will be it.
And with this,
This will finish it.
Yeah, there's a bonus 3 sirens that the Department of Natural Resources
Yeah.
is putting in.
Yeah, and
One
those
of
are free.
is just across the line in Putnam County at Lehman. The other one is Performance Creek.
If we sounded from the borrow during the statewide tornado drill?
No. No. We have a testing policy, and there's never been any appetite to add that to the policy since it's not an interactive test.
Tomorrow is the statewide.
It is. And the third location has not been announced by DNR yet. It's going to be somewhere in the northwest part of the county, or maybe not that far north or that far west, but it's going to be somewhere around Horseman, somewhere on that property there, is what we're thinking.
So again, you remember phase 1 was ARP funded, and we did a little bit of a amount there. Phase 2 is kind of the park part, if you will. And then phase 3 is these final 2 locations. And for purposes of the grant, it was December, the late December date that the clock started, and that we could go forward with this. And we will ask certain organizations for some match money. There's been some folks that are interested in helping with that, so that'll help. And then a lot of the in-kind donations from REMC, for instance, of poles and labor. Labor's a big one. Our meeting time, planning time counts. I think we'll be pretty close, but I do want to say, Jack, that for the benefit of the members here, that if we get down to the final part here and we need $4,000 to finish this, I hope that we can do that out of Riverboat or some source, because we've been able to come up with more than doubling of our system, reaching thousands more people at really minimal cost with local dollars at the end of the day. So that's something to be proud of. I think we've accomplished a lot here with this project. So thank you, Jack, and to our committee members for doing the work. So, yeah.
Sound like we got your back.
Glad to hear it. You guys always have, so I appreciate that. What'd you decide on that motion?
Well, I guess I'll make a motion
Yeah,
for the
let's do
record
for the- yeah.
that we intend to support phase 3 and finish this project.
Motion made by Anton, is there a second? Second by Daniel, all those in favor? There we go.
There you go.
There.
Order those sirens.
Yeah.
Get them ordered.
All right, any other elected officials, department heads? Okay, public comment. Sheila, you have something?
Commissioners have retained AME for our new IT. They're in the transition, working with fourth phase to move forward and turn things over. All we can do is wait for the updates and get things moving forward.
Will that action fit within our existing funding and budgeting?
I believe the commissioner said if it doesn't, that they have funds within their budget to meet the difference. They don't intend on asking for any additional. Correct, Dave?
Hopefully, yes. Okay.
All right, council?
I do have one follow-up. I don't know if we made it clear in last meeting, but when we talked about the building department and the reorganization there, if I'm not mistaken, the commissioners were not going to proceed with the part-time code enforcement officer, is that correct?
That's what I understand.
Is that formal, that's the final decision, not going to do it? Okay. I'm going to make a motion for our end to vacate that position, because I don't think we actually took action.
Right, no, we didn't.
So I'm going to make a motion that we vacate the part-time position of code enforcement officer, will not be funded, will not be filled.
Motion made. Is there a second? Second by Daniel. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. 4-2. 5-2.
All right, we'll get that stricken from the system.
All right. Any other council comments?
I make a motion.
Motion made to adjourn?
All right.
All right.
That's not bad.